a completely surprising individual has stepped in as part of a plan to stop Beowulf from ending up behind bars in Emmerdale. On Monday, Bear found himself back in the police station under questioning by DS Walsh, who was determined to uncover the truth about what really happened on the day Ray Walters died. For a short time, Bear insisted he was alone at the scene when Ray passed away, but Walsh soon caught him out with a clever tactic. The detective challenged Bear to recreate the exact knot used to tie up Ray's body before it was placed in a depot van. When Bear failed to do so, it exposed that he hadn't been telling the truth. Trying to shield Paddy Kirk, Bear suddenly admitted that he had planned to kill Ray, putting himself at even greater risk of facing a life sentence. In the following episode, Paddy became desperate to find a way to help his father and decided the only option was to confess that he had lied about his whereabouts when Ray died. Paddy and Dylan Penders went to the station and revealed everything, but their honesty came at a cost. Both were charged with perverting the course of justice, and because their false statements had wasted police time, they were told they wouldn't be going home anytime soon. With both of her loved ones gone, Mandy Dingle was left wandering the village aimlessly as the next episode began. Chas Dingle arrived ahead of a meeting with a solicitor named Zara. Inside, Chas, Mandy, April Windsor, Marlon Dingle, and Aaron Dingle listened carefully as Zara outlined what could happen next for Paddy, Bear, and Dylan. She explained that if anyone had seen Ray before he confronted Dylan that day, their testimony about his state of mind could help convince a jury that Bear acted in self-defense. Later on, Aaron suggested to Mandy that finding someone willing to lie and give a false statement about Ray might be their only chance of giving the trio some hope. At the cafe, Laurel Thomas mentioned that she had seen Ray shortly before he entered the pub, instantly giving Mandy and Aaron an idea. They approached Laurel and asked her to lie to the police, but she refused, fearing she could also face prison if she wasn't truthful. Arthur Thomas overheard the conversation and, unsurprisingly, had strong opinions about Laurel's hesitation. He urged his mother to reconsider, pointing out how much her statement could change things. However, the fear of being separated from her children proved too overwhelming, and Laurel stood firm in her decision. Taking matters into his own hands, Arthur later went to the pub and told Mandy and Aaron that he would make the statement instead. It could be his way of dealing with guilt after recently putting his mother in hospital. Perhaps the idea of being seen as a hero who saves 3 people is appealing to him, especially after admitting he feels bored and trapped in the village. So the question remains, is Arthur acting out of kindness, or is there something else driving his decision? Emmerdale spoilers, Joe sets his sights on Lydia as he makes a shocking new move. In yesterday's episode, Graham Foster gave Joe a copy of Kim's will after secretly taking it from the safe. As Joe went through the paperwork, he assumed Home Farm would be left to him, convinced it was rightfully his. However, he was stunned to discover that Kim had actually named Lydia Dingle as the person who would inherit Home Farm after her death. Joe was quietly seething, while Graham saw it as a positive moment, believing Joe was finally beginning to understand Kim's true nature. At the start of today's episode, Lydia arrived at the house ready to start her cleaning duties, but Joe immediately snapped at her for being slightly late. In reality, his frustration had little to do with the unfinished chores and everything to do with jealousy over Kim's decision in the will. Graham reminded Joe that Lydia had no influence over Kim's generous choice, so taking his anger out on her would achieve nothing. He added that Kim is the one truly in control, and if Joe wants to take action, he needs to focus on her, but with a careful and calculated approach. Later that evening, Joe went to the pub, where he apologized to Lydia for his earlier behavior and even offered her a pay increase. While Lydia later reflected that working at Home Farm might be a good opportunity to keep an eye on Joe, Graham had already figured out what was really going on. He realized that Joe was planning to take advantage of Lydia's close relationship with Kim. Graham didn't object to the strategy, but reminded Joe that Lydia isn't the real issue. Kim is. The question now is, what will Joe do next? Emmerdale spoilers, 5 major moments tonight as Aaron's shocking plan comes to light. In tonight's episode of Emmerdale, Aaron joins forces with Mandy Dingle in a desperate attempt to keep Paddy out of prison. However, their risky plan could end up making the situation even worse. Elsewhere, Joe Tate continues to scheme against Lydia Dingle in secret. Will he succeed in ruining her bond with Kim? Here are 5 key moments from Wednesday's episode. Paddy and Dylan's admissions at the police station are still causing serious fallout across the village. With their bail hearing postponed for another day, they are set to remain in custody for longer. They may need to prepare for the worst, as their lawyer warns their families that in the most severe outcome, they could face life sentences for perverting the course of justice. Will Paddy and Dylan come to regret being so honest about their involvement in covering up Ray's death, and with Bear Wolf also facing major consequences, could their actions have been in vain? As Aaron and Mandy struggle to cope, they pressure Laurel into giving a new statement to the police. Since an independent witness is needed to confirm that Ray intended to kill Dylan, forcing Bear to intervene, they suggest that Laurel could fabricate details about her final encounter with him. Laurel is unwilling to lie under oath, but someone else seems far less concerned about telling the truth. Meanwhile, Joe continues to pretend he supports Lydia, leaving her uneasy about his sudden generosity. Determined to sabotage Kim's decision to leave Home Farm to her closest friend, Joe secretly sets up a new bank account in Lydia's name. Could he be planning to frame her for fraud? With Kim already growing suspicious of Joe's actions, will his plan really unfold the way he hopes? Elsewhere, Eric keeps a close eye on Kerry and Jai after realizing they've been sneaking around behind his back. Rather than confronting them immediately, he holds back. Could he be plotting revenge? Finally, Tracy's life is set to change dramatically as she continues slipping away to answer mysterious phone calls. Viewers already know that Tracy will soon take a break from the village, as the actress who plays her has filmed her temporary exit ahead of maternity leave. Emmerdale spoiler, Robert and Aaron face a shocking setback. Joe exerts pressure on Robert and Aaron by arranging the sale of the butler's cattle herd, despite the fact it wasn't part of their lease agreement. With no real way to stop him, Robert is forced to allow the sale to go ahead. However, Aaron's reminder about his family gives him renewed determination to fight for the future of the farm. At the same time, Kim strengthens her position against Graham by appointing Ross to a security role as director of operations. The new partnership quickly leads to tension. Graham cautions Ross to keep his distance from Dawn, but Ross confidently dismisses the warning, bragging about being Kim's added muscle. Elsewhere, Carrie is left completely stunned.